Syndicated presents Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian.
So what is up? And it's funny because, Shep, I've said for 7 years now, the Tigers are a year away from being a year away.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm literally wondering if maybe legitimately they are a year away from being a year away. It's a fair question to ask now, because I think in years gone by, and obviously you had a front row seat to it, a lot of the contributions were coming from guys that you knew weren't going to be here when they were good.
Right.
Hey, look what Victor Reyes did. Like, seriously, I mean, but that was the kind of routine that we were going through, and we know all the names. To have 2 or 3 from the, I promised myself I go one show without saying that gosh damn name, and I can't.
Well, you didn't say it. You didn't say it. I said it.
Yeah,
and just
I know.
So people know, when he came through not too long ago, I texted Sean right away, and I think the response might have been something in the realm of, "He's never going away, is he?" or something like that.
I blame that Butzloff. I say it all the time. It's Chris Butzloff that turned him into a cult hero. Much love to Chris. But all jokes aside, Shep, pretty cool weekend. They take 2 or 3 from the Yankees. And to see a lot of the young pieces that we've heard so much about contribute in one way, shape, or form was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was thrilled. I mean, even though Blake's got the Cubs hat on today, I was thrilled with the lineup. I want to see Jace Young. I want to continue to see Colt Keith, Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green, Parker Meadows. Let them play through this. I would have liked to have seen Dylan Dingler. Torkelson's back up, like you and I said a couple of weeks ago. That would happen. You get the new kid from the Dodgers system at shortstop. I don't know. Let's take a look at him for a while. And I've never been a big believer. Like, let's see what they can do. This is, the last 37 games, Sean, is not going to be a yes or no answer to the question whether or not they can play.
Yep.
But let them get their feet wet with this organization and let them get a taste of major league action and see if they can respond to it. So I was really happy with what they did last night, not just because they won, but because of the way those guys are playing. And I like their at-bats. They seem to have better at-bats.
Blake, I want to ask you, because I really like baseball. Obviously, Shep is a huge baseball guy. Shep, if you don't know this, Blake, by his own admission, isn't really a big baseball guy, okay? Shep, Blake, do you have more excitement when you hear about all these young names and you actually see these young kids coming in? I mean, does that do anything for you? Or are you about to go into football mode and Tigers be damned the next month and a half?
The second one for sure.
Okay.
But I thought that the Little League, like that whole experience was cool to watch, because my wife loves the Little League World Series, watches it every year. I don't know how she got so into it. She loves it. So we had it on and they were doing like the interviews with the players. And what I was wondering, and maybe you guys would be able to answer this for me, do you think the players like genuinely like that experience? I understand they probably like the interaction with the fans, but like those one-off games like that kind of screws up their normalcy like in a week.
Shep, that's a question you might be able to handle.
Yeah, no, I think they like it a lot. I think every player would like to play in that Iowa Field of Dreams game. They love the Williamsport game. The Tigers have already played Kansas City in the Omaha game, and then you've got all those international games, right? I think the players love it. I think it gives them a chance to feel like they were kids again. You got a smaller fan group of fans there at the ballpark, but I think the whole experience, I don't think they'd want to do it every single year. Maybe some would, but I think if there's something special about it, and I think they know what it means to the game of baseball. I think Major League Baseball, for as much as I've criticized it, has done a really good job with building those type of events. NHL does it with, the Winter Classic. I would like to see more of that. Not that you have to do Winter Classics, more Winter Classics, but more special moments where you play a game. Sean would know this better than I would. someplace in Canada that may never get an NHL game.
Agreed.
Do it someplace where it's meaningful. You know what I mean? And I think, with football, they do that once in a while. They do it over in Europe, and they'll do it in Mexico and stuff like that. I would like to see the professional sports take their games, a game that wouldn't disturb the schedule all that much, to a place where they don't see the NFL. I don't care if it's Boise. I don't care where it would be, but give those people a chance to watch an NFL game close by and up close in person. I think that'd be really cool.
You know what's interesting? Whether it be one of the outposts, crafted Hockeyville, the whole Hockeyville series, whether it be one of the outposts in Canada or even in Calumet, like Shep, I went up to Calumet, and 5 years after they had that game, there was signage everywhere. There were improvements to that beautiful old Coliseum. People were still talking about it when we were up there and covered a few games for the State Champs Network. And it was awesome. And I don't care what anybody says. I will never, ever get tired of those grassroots, what people refer to as cheesy events. I think they're fantastic. Call it Gouda, call it Swiss, call it Brie. I don't give a crap. I think it's fantastic and great for the game.
Yeah. How does it hurt the game? It can't.
Yep.
All you're doing is, it feels like it's the right thing to do. That's kind of cheesy. I understand that. But it feels like it's the right thing to do, to get back to the people or closer to the people who may not always give you that opportunity. You're getting away from the corporate sponsorships. You're getting away from the expensive seats, and you're bringing in people because you're showing you care.
Yeah, it's natural. It's natural community engagement.
Right. Yeah.
Which is hard to do for professional sports leagues.
That's why they should do it, Blake. That's why they need to do it. And I'm not saying do it every weekend. Okay. I'm saying make it special, make it a buildup. Sometimes those are more important. Figure out certain places in advance, years in advance. Make other cities go, man, please let it be us. Almost like an Olympic committee decision. And when it's finally granted, people are like, yes, we get it this year. Make it a big event, just like they do with the NFL draft. It'd be really smart for more teams or more leagues to do that, like Major League Baseball has done. I got to give them some credit, even though I think they've screwed up a couple of things. I think they got this right.
Couple comments. I certainly want to get both your thoughts on what we saw on Saturday, and I'm just not going to put a lot into it. I'm not. I think there were some things that were answered. There were things that I like to see, et cetera, et cetera. As David said, seriously, it's college football season now. It's game week. I was just joking with these guys. I was watching some of those camp visits on the Big Ten Network. Man, I don't know what it is about those shows. I dropped my pants around my ankles, and I was like, the Hoosiers are going to be so damn good this year after watching the show. What the hell do I care about the Indiana Hoosiers? Nobody goes to their gosh damn games. But I'm so desirous of football right now. I'm running around in the front room like a penguin going, Bowl Bout Hoosiers. I mean, I think that's where we're at right now. We all need college football. As Eric said, it felt like football weather today. Also asked, did you watch the Galarraga thing on ESPN? I did not. I heard good things about it. Unfortunately, you have no reason to remember this, Shep. I lived it. That was, we were at that game, and it was just like, huh? I mean, it was just.
My bigger problem with that, Sean, you're right. I do remember that you lived it, because you couldn't stop talking about it, and rightfully so. My bigger problem is with Rob Manfred. And he says he doesn't want to open up a Pandora's box. It's not that hard of a decision.
No.
Jim Joyce admitted it. Every player on the field of play knew it. Every broadcaster, writer, and fan who was there knew what happened. There's no Pandora's box when you're making a wrong a right. You don't have to. This does not mean you have to open up a Pandora's box and say, that guy was safe on this play. He deserves a single. Let's add 0.05 1,000ths to his batting average. This is unique. You have the power to change it. You've chosen not to. It's a poor decision on your part.
It's a really weird thing. It just is. I mean, that I remember that whole week, and I don't care what anybody says. I feel sorry for Jim Joyce. I do. We all make mistakes. Sorry. I've made horrific mistakes in my life. He made a horrific mistake that, in his own words, cost that kid infamy. I mean, I feel sorry for the guy to this day,
So
14 years later.
Yeah,
It's
he's
insane.
crying. He's crying when he's up at home plate the very next game.
It was terrible.
But
Really
Galarraga got a Corvette out of it. That's not bad.
No, not a bad thing. Boy, if the Tigers could only get an owner like that. So listen, this weekend, it's college football week 0. Shep, somebody said to me, and I think they knew what they were saying, because guys like Blake and I'm so excited. I just can't wait to watch college football again. Maybe we make too much of a big deal about week 0. And I say definitively not, because when the number 10 team in the nation is playing, regardless of whether or not you feel they're a fraud or not, and then you get to watch a game at 4:00 in the afternoon. I don't care if it's Montana State taking on New Mexico, SMU, Nevada, and then Delaware and Hawaii at night. Look, I'm just happy that I can watch real football. I am, especially after another Tiger season where, I'm not going to lie to you, I wasn't thinking wild card this year. But you know what? I was thinking 82, 83 wins, and golly gee, let's be close and everything. Enough. I'm still going to keep one eye on that. But gosh damn it, college football's back, and I don't care who's playing. Real football is being played this weekend.
Well, I was the wrong person, because I thought the Tigers would challenge to win the division based on Minnesota being 10 or Cleveland being 10 games under 500 last year, Kansas City finishing in last place, Chicago a turmoil and mess, and just thinking that at some point Minnesota would come back to the pack and Detroit would improve a little bit. So I was wrong there, but I'm in 100% agreement with you. I thought you were going to say, I've had enough preseason football already. And you're a proponent of 2 games. Blake, I don't know what you are with the preseason. I've been one of those guys who say, hey, they need the reps. Well, obviously they don't. Otherwise, the Lions would be playing some of their first-string players, and Brock Purdy would get more than 3 series, and Jaden Daniels would actually play again. They've seen enough about certain players and so on and so forth. Michael Penix doesn't have to play anymore for Atlanta, and he's a rookie, for crying out loud. I think it's screaming that they don't need that much preseason. So now that we get quote-unquote real football, I'm excited for it too. There's a different buzz in sports, and you can feel it. It's palpable when these games start to matter. And you're right, Sean. I don't care who's playing or not. You and I have talked about this in the past. I think it's ridiculous that there are preseason rankings. We don't know what these teams are, because you said 10 is a fraud. We don't know what these teams are. They're completely different than they were a year ago, and everybody's just making projections. I think it's ridiculous, but that's what the world we live in, and we move forward.
Well, and especially in like today's college football, like Florida State's entire roster is different.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting a quarterback that started his career at Clemson, then he went to Oregon State, and now he's at Florida State.
Right.
We have no clue what we're going to get out of this entire team, but they're the number 10 team in the country.
Yeah. Crazy. It's based all on last year.
That's the crazy thing about last year, because a year ago at this time, I was telling Blake, especially before that game against LSU, that opener, Florida State with the rest of their schedule, if they could have opened eyes against LSU and knock off LSU, there was a good chance they were going to be in the college football playoff, and because the rest of their schedule. And so that's an opportunity you get early on. You know as well as I do, people, I have no other way to say this, and if I sound like a geek, so be it. People don't pay attention to crap like that. They don't pay attention to crap like that. You know that. Blake knows that. I know that. But you know what a lot of people do out there? The lazy ass voters, they sit there and they go, Florida State really got screwed last year, man. If their quarterback didn't get hurt, they'd be in the Final Four. You don't look at nearly the entire roster flipped over. So that's why it's imperative. You get a game like this against Georgia Tech, you go out there and let's say you roll Georgia Tech. Florida State looks like they're on a mission this year. And the rest of us are going like this. But honestly, you make that early impression, man, it counts for something. It really does.
It does. And you know what, a lot of those people who did vote for them, they said, see, I was right. They didn't just miss their first-string quarterback. They missed their second-string quarterback last year, and that's what held them back. And I think they got a disservice, and gosh darn it, I'm going to make amends for it. I'm going to help them. I'm going to change my mind. They're going to change my mind. And they haven't done what they were supposed to do. It's ridiculous. So you're right on with that.
Yep, no doubt about that.
Speaking of changing your minds.
Yes.
Hendon Hooker. Did he change your mind, or did he need to change your mind at all with one game. If people feel like he's the guy, and I'm not telling them whether they should or they shouldn't, but if they think that he's the guy after the one performance, what about the first performance? Now, I know it was short-lived because of the concussion. To me, I talked with somebody today, Sean and Blake. They said this. They said, I think Hendon Hooker can lead us to where Jared Goff led us a year ago. And I'm like, based on what?
Yeah, 100%.
I'm confused at that. Based on what? I don't understand where you get the logic. You like him, great. We fall in love with certain players. Yep. We justify. See, the Lions. I told you, you can start building for the future. Use a 3rd-round pick on a guy like Hendon Hooker. We got him. Now you want to see him. Now that you've seen him, and he adds that one dimension that your current guy doesn't have. So it'd be like if you were in New Orleans. We got to get the quarterback that can really throw the ball well or fire it in there, because Drew Brees is kind of a soft tosser. People feel like Hendon Hooker's that guy. He gives them that running element. They can't wait to see him, and it's going to start all over again.
Blake, I want to get your thoughts in a second. I want to tell you all about catering. You bring up Drew Brees. Remember when Drew Brees' arm just died? Like, you heard the term noodle arm? His arm died at the end of his career. He couldn't throw. Do you remember that last year? He couldn't throw. It was the weirdest thing, man.
John, he couldn't throw in San Diego, remember? Oh, that's right. He had a shoulder problem, had surgery. So then he went to New Orleans. And speaking of noodle arms, I could use some noodles right now if I were hosting some type of event.
Oh, isn't he? You see, how do I top that?
Everybody take notes. Everybody take notes right now.
I'm just going to tell you that All About Catering LLC is a full-service caterer. Graduations, wedding, bridal showers, worship services for Shep, corporate events, anything you need catering for, from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering. They'll take care of you. Customer service and satisfaction is the #1 goal. So don't sweat your next big event. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com to see their menus and all their 5-star reviews. Give them a call, 586-731-1398 to get your event started. Blake, I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on Hendon Hooker. I think I've made mine clear, and all they did was solidify my thoughts on Hendon Hooker. But what did you think? Are you putting too much into it, too little? What's your take?
I mean, I've told you, Sean, before. I know I haven't told you, Shep. I hated the draft pick when they made it because I've never – that system that he ran in college, no quarterback has ever gone to the NFL, and it's worked out. That super wide split, reading half the field, or just literally an RPO, it has never translated well to the NFL. I understand he got to sit last year and learn, but I still think they need another quarterback to be the backup. I don't have faith in Hendon Hooker at all.
So without being a smart ass,
here it comes.
When you say the system, what do you mean by the system? Number one. Number two, because I don't know what their I don't remember Tennessee divulging what their system is and whether or not he suited it properly. Number one, and number two, how do we know he wasn't making the proper adjustments to give him a little bit more leeway within that system and do things that you originally might have thought and really we didn't know?
So they run the old Art Briles offense, which has been termed now the veer and shoot. So it's basically super, super wide outside the number splits for the wide receivers, and you're just reading half the field. That's the system that Tennessee runs.
Okay, well, if you got the ball in the middle of the field and you got two receivers outside the numbers, that's really split wide.
Yeah.
You have to have, I mean, they're throwing conference, so you know that you got at least one guy in the slot somewhere, plus you got a tight end. You got to be reading more than half the field to be successful in that. Because if you're reading just half the field, you know, you're that means you're not looking backside.
Yeah.
Okay. Or front side. So I believe that Hendon Hooker, I would love to talk to him about that. If I go to a Lions practice, I'd love to ask him a little bit more about that and learn a little bit more exactly what that was all about.
I'm a firm believer. I told Shep last week, I think I told you the same thing, Blake. Look, if God forbid something happens to Jared Goff, catastrophic, season's over. Sorry, I'm not going to take examples to the rule or exceptions to the rule and say, well, Hostetler did it, or whatever the case. His season's over. I want a guy that based on not what we saw him do on Saturday with what he had at his disposal. I want a guy that might be able to utilize the weapons around him. And if it's 3, 4, 5 games, whatever the case may be, smaller, God forbid, go 3-2. With having one of the best tight ends in the National Football League, with having multiple wide receivers he can throw to, with having a couple different backs, kind of a change of pace type of things. I'm not looking for the world from my backup. I'm just not. And I know a lot of people made the argument for Tannehill. I saw people make the argument for Tannehill out there. I felt that Hendon Hooker was capable. Now, consider the source. I was somebody who was dead set on voting for him for Heisman Trophy until he got injured and then, kind of took himself out of it. And you know what? On Saturday, he solidified it. And somebody brought up a great point, because I know what people are going to say. People are going to say, well, who did he do it against?
Right.
That wasn't Kansas City's 1s and 2s. Well, this just in wasn't Detroit's 1s at his disposal either.
Correct. Right. Good point.
And I think that counts for something. It
really
does.
Do. You're 100% right on that. I'm glad you brought that point up, because you've got to have that balance. There's no doubt. If it were 2 or 3 games, I wouldn't have a problem with it either. I'm not of the belief that if Jared Goff goes down, the season's over, because I believe this front office, recognizing what it has and the opportunity that awaits, would make something happen. So that to me, and if Hendon Hooker can be as good as you may think he can be, he deserves the opportunity. I mean, this is what young guys, when they get drafted, this is their dream. This is what they want. Give them the chance. Who's to say, especially after Blake just pointed out that he learned under a year, who's to say he can't come in and be at least somewhat effective in the first couple of starts of an NFL career? Not saying that he would lead him to an NFC championship or a Super Bowl, but I would feel comfortable enough where the coaching staff knows enough to say, let's give him a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, see what happens, see if he can keep this boat afloat. And if we got to make a move, we make the move.
Do you guys feel better about Jake Bates?
Yes.
So do I.
A lot better.
I didn't think he was going to make it. Personally, there were things about him, and I mean, you got to remember, this is a guy that hasn't kicked that long. Okay, he was kicking off in college, mind you, and with all the short range misses, I mean, you don't like the extra point miss, but for him to connect from multiple places, and yes, even in a fake football game, for him to hit on that last kick, I think that's huge for the guy. I do.
Those are big kicks for him. I mean,
sure they
people may not think it's a throwaway game. Guess what? It's not a throwaway game for him, because he knows if mentally, I miss this, I could be gone.
Yeah.
So those are all, to me, they're all pressure kicks for him. Now, they're not the same pressure you're going to have when you're lining up for a game winner against the Rams on opening week. But for him to keep a job and fulfill a dream, it's a big deal.
I will say, though,
you feel good?
The inconsistency on extra points does scare me.
Terrifying.
Because and you guys both know this, in the NFL, there's a lot of one-score games. So if you're missing extra points, that can really change the outcome of a game. And I mean, obviously, Dan Campbell's not afraid to go for 2 or go for it on 4th down. So that helps. But I feel like the most important thing I want out of a kicker is he's 99.9% on extra points.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I would agree with that, because that can come back to nip you. 99.9 is pretty high, considering they've moved it back. Even Matt Prater missed 1 or 2 a year ago. I'm with you guys. I want him to make, and I know there's no gimmies, but for me, he's got to be making those of 40 yards and in regularly. That's not too much to ask for from an NFL kicker. So if you're lined up and you got it from 38 yards, this is almost automatic. That's what my expectation is. Kansas City's got one. He's the best in the business. It's a big reason why they've been successful. We don't think too much about special teams until they come back and bite you in the ass.
Yep, no doubt. I want to talk a little bit more about field goals. Austin had a point about the quarterbacks as well, but first let's talk about legacy. Did you know that thousands, and I do mean thousands, of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? Our friends at Legacy Partners are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. Trust me, my family just did it. They hooked us up. They'll hook you up as well. What they do, this is the legacy difference. They help our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you, and yes, save you some money. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're probably paying too much and you could be underinsured. What are you waiting for? Give Legacy Partners a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, business insurance needs. They can and will hook you up. 586-209-4106. That's 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes. Shep, I say this to Blake all the time. Guys like us in our era, it was so mind-boggling that Dan Marino threw for 48 touchdowns and 5,000 yards in 1984.
Yeah.
And the fact that it didn't happen again for like 20 plus years really tells you how incredible. I don't think anything, and I'm not joking when I say this, I don't think anything has jumped up as much as guys in the National Football League routinely hitting 60-yarders now.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, guys like you and I, dude, did you see Mark Mosley hit a 48-yarder to win it? Yeah. Raphael Septien hit one from 49. Like, these guys are like, hold my beer. 66 yards over the weekend, and I know it's exhibition,
it's
but
crazy.
It's nuts how the length of these kicks. It just seems like it happened overnight, man. Everybody's Matt Prater now.
I know. So Chester Markle couldn't do it. Fred Cox couldn't do it. Garo Premium couldn't do it. Why can these guys do it now?
I don't know.
Is it strictly all strength? It's funny when we talk about guys being bigger, stronger, faster, we always associate it to the wide receivers, the tight ends. Look how different they are now from tight ends way back in the day. All right. There's not many guys now who run the same routes as, Ron Kramer did back with the Green Bay Packers. These guys are fast. They're almost like another receiver. The running backs, obviously a lot faster. The linemen are religiously much bigger. We fail to recognize the kickers. So it's a great point, Sean, on how the kickers have gotten their legs are so much stronger. There's only two kickers, right? There's only two kickers in the Football Hall of Fame, right? It's Jan Stenerud and Morton Anderson, right?
Yeah. So, I think that's it. I think
there's just two. And punters, Ray Guy is in there. I don't think there's another punter that I can recall. But anyway, that's it. I wonder how much this will change things moving forward with the Hall of Fame when guys if they can stay as long. I mean, Adam Vinatieri is going to be there, but if they continue to hit these long field goals like you're talking
Stover's got to be, right? I mean, right? He's got to be, right?
Yeah, would you think so? I think he's the most accurate kicker, right, of all time. I believe so. Matt Stover. Yeah.
I feel like Janikowski was the one that bridged that gap. Like he was the one where it really started.
Yeah.
Like dudes were just bombing kicks.
I think you're right about that, Blake. That's when Al Davis made him. He wasn't a first rounder, was he? Was a second rounder?
He was a second round pick.
Was he second or third? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. That's that. Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, that's when the big-legged guys, from what I can recall, because when Sean and I were kids, everybody, like he said, Mark Mosley, all these guys were hitting straight on.
Yeah.
All these guys were hitting straight on kicks.
Yeah.
Okay. Tom Dempsey, half a foot, straight on. The field, the ability to kick it with a soccer style, not that that it was first introduced by Sebastian Janikowski, but it really changed the strength of their legs.
He was a first-round pick. He was drafted 17th overall.
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez. Oh, Pete.
Yeah, I knew it was first or second. Yeah. Because Al Davis, I mean, that made waves everywhere. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Justin Tucker. I mean, it's just too many of those guys, dude. And Tucker to do it when he had mixed up my Baltimore Raven kickers. My apologies. When a dude's hitting 66 yarders to win games and stuff like that, and he's got the highest percentage ever. I mean, you got to get him in.
That's right. Tucker instead of Stover. Yeah, you're right.
Austin said. I want to scroll back up. He brought up
Herrera. Is that what he was?
If Goff goes down a few weeks, we have a chance to go 1-1 with Hooker. Calling Sudfeld, Timu Goff wouldn't even be accurate. He is the $1 clearance bin DVD at GameStop. Dude is terrible. At least Hendon is neutral and can scramble and give defensive coordinators a different look. I maintain.
I like that last part. Yeah.
Few games, I'm fine. Okay. You lose your starting quarterback in the National Football League. chances are very, very high your season's over. That's the way it is. It doesn't mean that it can't happen because it has happened. Nick Foles and Hostetler. Those are
Kurt Warner and even a guy like Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush can come in and help you to a 3-2, 4-1 record until a guy like Dak Prescott gets back. So you've got some names where but you sure don't want to be in that position. You're scared to death to be in that position.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Blake, I love what you said last week about this upcoming game, and it's great that people are going to be back in Pittsburgh or back in Ford Field and la-di-dee, la-di-da. I call this shut her down weekend, baby. I wouldn't
play any of them?
No reason.
All right, fair enough. So I respect the opinion. Here's my issue. That means they will not have played any preseason games.
And that's okay.
Then I don't want to hear week 1. Do not tell me week 1. They haven't played since San Francisco. Don't tell me well, we didn't have a rhythm.
I'm with you.
We still are working things out together don't feed me that because you had the chance. I want to see him play 3 series. I want to see him play 3 series in the first quarter, maybe even if there was 2 series in the first and 1 in the second. I want to see him play 3 series and then get him the hell out of there. Certain guys.
And if you tell me, Blake, I know I've said this to you before, if you tell me the difference between success and failure in the regular season is a guy that goes out there and plays a series or 2, I'm just not buying it. I mean, that's an argument that I've heard people say. So that's why, Shep, you're right. I lost the right to say, golly gee, what happened? These guys came out of the chute so slow. I lost the right, and I'm totally cool with that. I'll side with Blake and his bubble wrap.
Yeah,
but
I'm with you. I just think obviously the coaches know a hell of a lot more. They know exactly what they're doing, and this is where you trust Dan Campbell. I just don't want to hear any excuses after that first week. Now, somebody just said Cooper Rush. Seriously, if Dallas loses Dak, they'd be likely to win 3 games. Cooper Rush went 4-1 in 2022. Okay, as a starter in replace of Dak Prescott, he went 4-1. So I'm not saying he would lead them to a divisional title. I don't think he'd take them deep into a playoff. All I'm telling you is for a short period of time, there have been guys who've been able to come in and lead the charge. Cooper Rush is a good example because Dak Prescott went down and there was seriously people in Dallas going, stay with this kid. They're 4-1. He's throwing it on the dime.
Remember that? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Jimmy said, love this about kickers. Shep mentioning Mark Mosley from my beloved Redskins is music to my ears. The Chester Markle bit was cool. We're great friends, recovering alcoholic up in the UP. Back in those days, a lot less indoor stadiums. A fact a lot of people forget, Bud. But you know what else people forget? Blake, you ready to have your mind blown? Mark Mosley, the kicker for the Washington Redskins, was the MVP in 1982.
Yes,
what?
Yeah,
a kicker.
Yep.
A kicker.
Wow.
That's
good
how
for that guy.
That was a shortened season.
That
was a shortened season. But he was the MVP, right?
Yeah.
The NFL had a shortened season?
Yeah.
Imagine that today.
Yeah. Well, oh my gosh!
Believe it or not, there was
would lose their mind.
Yeah, 87 was the strike players, and 82 was the 9-game schedule. Yeah, so it's amazing. Mm-hmm. Ray said, Sean, what was your thoughts on the Line trade? I guess it's Montreal's turn to turn him into a franchise player that was expected when he was drafted behind Matthews. I think he's a head case. I think Montreal had a plethora of defensemen. It sucks to give up Jordan Harris for a guy that up to this point in his career has been a head case. He's argued with everybody. He hasn't gotten along with teammates. He's addicted to video games. Other than that, I'm sure he's a great guy.
Oh man.
I don't
a bad combo,
personally,
buddy.
you know what? It would be great. It'd be great if the light bulb went on. He's got all the talent in the world. Anybody watch him play, you know that. But I know from guys that played with him more about him than I probably should know about him. And everything that I just said is what I heard from multiple people.
Do you think guys can recognize what's happening in a change of scenery does them best depending on the room they get in?
I think so. I mean, If you have a guy like Marty St. Louis, maybe you got a chance. I think the answer lies within, though. I think Patrick Liney's either going to say to himself, I'm going to be everything that everybody and their brother, nobody doubts his talent. Nobody doubts his talent. I'm going to be everybody. I'm going to be, what everybody thinks I'm going to be, or I'm not. And up to this point in his career, he would rather argue with coaches and teammates and play Minecraft. I'm not joking. Until 5 o'clock in the morning in hotels. Seriously, I'm not joking. Maybe the light bulb goes on. I don't know. He's 26 years old. Guess what? You're not a kid anymore, man. You're 26 now. National Hockey League, you're not a kid anymore.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing, too, because coaches can't sit there and say, don't bring your video games with you. I mean, they're pros. They're supposed to handle their business, and it's supposed to matter to them, especially in hockey. It probably as much as any other sport, it matters when you walk in that room, they know who you are and what you are about. And it's hard to lose that type of stench. You better fix it and fix it quickly.
He had a brand new opportunity, and a lot of people thought, especially with some of the Finnish touch down in Columbus, that it was going to be Columbus that was going to unlock his potential. And he had run-ins with everybody. And Michael, who's a big Blue Jacket fan, we were actually discussing it this afternoon. He said, thanks for the comments about the trade. Fans are glad he's out of Columbus.
Wow. It's really too bad. I hate to see talent wasted.
Yep.
I really do.
Yep.
Fortunately for us, we didn't waste our talent tonight. We made the most of it, fellas. Great stuff with you.
He sounds like a diva receiver, like an old school, a TO.
Yeah.
But see, that's why I asked, Blake, because there have guys who've been labeled, troublemakers, hard to get along with. They go to different places and they're able to change some things around.
Yeah.
Or they're not the type of player / person you thought they were. So I wonder if this guy, to Sean's point, it's all up to the individual.
Yep.
If you're 26 and you still don't get it, and you recognize that you've been arguing with multiple players and multiple organizations and multiple coaches, there's one common denominator. It's you.
Yep.
They're not all wrong. You're wrong. And if you can't figure that out, you're lucky to get another chance.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our friends from the Wealth Advantage Group. Mike and Jeff, I know they're looking forward to college football season. And if you're ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville, owned by two brothers with over 20 years of industry experience. The Handsome brothers right there. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. That's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life and have clients in over 20 different states. Look, the investment world is a complex one. If you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, then it might be time to work with the experts. Reach out to the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574 or visit their website at www.thewealthadv.com. There is nothing worse than wasted talent. I'm sorry.
Yeah, can I give you one quick story before we say goodbye? One quick story. Kirk Gibson was the manager in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
He was there as a coach for a while. There are certain guys, he didn't like, but certain ways he wanted to do things. Guys had those games that you're talking about with Line. Not that they're playing them in the clubhouse, but they had certain toys, certain games that they thought were really cool and really funny. Gibby always used to say, you know what's funny? You know what's really cool? Winning.
Yeah.
So before the team got into the clubhouse one day, he took all of their little toys and put them in the middle of the damn clubhouse floor and broke them all.
Yeah.
I don't think he lit them on fire, but I think he just smashed them, just broke them all.
I can hear John Baligian in the middle of that room. Oh.
So
hey, you like this game? You know what, bro?
So he's just pounding them all, and he's like, enough. He basically set a tone. Perhaps it might take, it can be tough to do this with pros. It's easier to do at the collegiate level, but at the pros, it's a little more difficult. You can lose a team pretty quickly, or it can galvanize a team. Perhaps maybe some coach along the way didn't do that, and maybe Marty St. Louis will. Who knows? But hopefully somebody reaches him.
I think it'd be funny if one of the younger players on the team, and Lord knows they have a very good and young and incredibly talented core. I think it'd be hysterical if one of the players, if Nick Suzuki got up in his face and said, "Look, we don't pull that shit here."
Right. There you go.
That would be great.
Jar.
There's a reason why he's wearing the C, and I don't care if he's 23, 24 years old. We don't play that game here, and you want to be here. Gosh damn it. That's twice today, isn't it?
Yeah.
3 times.
Yeah.
I want one of the young players to just beat his ass in a video game.
Jar. Yeah.
I don't have a jar. Just Sean has a jar.
I have a jar.
Just Sean's got the jar?
Yeah, I can say whatever I want.
Yeah.
Surprised you haven't egged him on more.
I do.
No, but think about that. You're on the road. You're in Vancouver. All your boys are going out and we're gonna play Minecraft.
I know.
You know what he needs is an ass kicking. I'd go in there and just open up a can of whoop ass on him.
Virtually.
And just say, hey, dude, you're 26. You're single.
What are you doing?
You realize what's down the hall, right? You realize we're in Montreal.
And I'm gonna build my village.
You're playing of all games Minecraft. Nerd. Loser.
It's like Revenge of the Nerds. It's like come in like ogre and just yell nerd.
At least play like Call of Duty or something, man. Do
all right,
something.
listen, Lindsey Broadwell. Before we get out of here, because I have a big Minecraft tournament I got to get to in about 11 minutes. Okay, when it's time to get yourself a new house, whether you're a nerd, you're buying, you're selling, you need to contact the agent that I recommend. There she is, Lindsey Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsey grew up on the mean streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over South. And she's an expert in all facets of the business. And when it's time to move, our friend Lindsey and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsey at BroadwellHomes.com. She will help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Shep, I know you have the college drop-off this week as well, and then you're busy. We'll catch up again next Monday. I'm sure we'll talk before then. But
awesome stuff, man. Thanks for making my day. Appreciate
Always
it.
Always fun. And guess what? Tomorrow, you and I, Blake, we're going to have some fun, and we'll be friends tomorrow, okay?
We're going to talk college football, I have a feeling.
That means more money in the jar.
We're going to talk college football, and I'm going to challenge you live on the air to Minecraft. Yeah, we'll see what you're made of,
Blake on that one, okay? I'm going Blake.
See you guys later. Thanks for chiming in. Later.
Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian. Produced by Todd Losey and Blake Matcherzak. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Still Alive by Anti-Ghost. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.